Hello guys, in this tutorial we are going to do the first practical session on cloud computing, which is on private cloud deployment using eucalyptus. So what is eucalyptus? Eucalyptus is an open source infrastructure for cloud computing or elastic computing. The full form of eucalyptus is Elastic Utility Computing Architecture for linking your programs to useful systems. This private cloud concept eucalyptus, first launched in the year 2009 by Professor Rich Volsky in the Research and Development Department of Computer Science of University of California. Eucalyptus is a software platform for the implementation of private cloud computing on computer clusters. There is an enterprise edition and an open source edition. Currently, it exports a user-facing interface that is compatible with the Amazon EC2 or Elastic Cloud Computing and Simple Storage Service or S3 services. Eucalyptus works with the following versions of operating system, like CentOS, Ubuntu, Fedora, etc. Eucalyptus can use a variety of virtualization technologies including VMware, Xen and KVM hypervisors to implement the cloud abstractions it supports. But, in this tutorial, we are going to work on KVM. These are basic difference between open source and enterprise edition of eucalyptus. Some common features are simple storage service or S3 and EBS or elastic block storage. Xen and KVM hypervisor support. Now what is Ubuntu Enterprise Cloud or UEC? Ubuntu Enterprise Cloud, UEC for short, is a stack of applications from Canonical included with Ubuntu Server Edition. UEC includes eucalyptus along with a number of other open source software. UEC makes it very easy to install and configure the cloud. Now to create a private cloud of UEC or Ubuntu Enterprise Cloud, we required at least 2 to 3 machine. The cloud setup is consisting of one front-end/cluster machine and several node machines connected with it. A node can be connected or removed anytime from the front end. Eucalyptus is an open source infrastructure for cloud computing or elastic computing. It needs an OS to install over it. Basically, Linux is used to set up eucalyptus. A special flavor of Linux, Ubuntu 10.04 Server Edition, is available with ready eucalyptus setup. This slide shows the minimum or suggested requirements for the front end or the cluster machine. This slide shows the minimum or suggested requirements for the back end or the node controller. So what are these? Cluster controller or node controller. These are the components of the UEC. So basically there are 5 major and important components to create a private cloud. Now what are the function of each components in the private cloud? First is the node controller. Node controller should be virtualization technology or VT enabled, cause we are going to run a KVM on this node machine. UEC automatically installs KVM when the user chooses to install the UEC node. The VMs running on the hypervisor and controlled by UEC are called instances. Node controller runs on each node and controls the life cycle of instances running on the node. The node controller interacts with the OS and the hypervisor running on the node on one side and the cluster controller on the other side. This is the life cycle of the instances running on the node controller. When you launch the VM, it is in pending state, then it goes to running, and when you terminate the instance, it goes to shutdown, then it terminates. Second component is cluster controller. Cluster controller manages one or more node controllers and deploys or manages instances on them. Cluster controller also manages the networking for the instances running on the nodes under certain types of networking modes of Eucalyptus. The third component is the Walrus Storage Controller. WS3 provides a persistent simple storage service using REST and SOAP APIs compatible with S3 APIs. REST and SOAP are the prior web services request. Means whenever you log into some site, then either the request is REST or the SOAP. REST is latest and SOAP is older. Functions of Walrus Storage Controller are storing the machine images, storing snapshots, and storing and serving using S3 application peripheral interface. Simple storage service should be considered as a simple storage system. Fourth component is storage controller. Storage controller provides persistent block storage for use by the instances. This is similar to the Elastic Block Storage service from AWS. And last component is the Cloud Controller. The Cloud Controller CLC is the front end to the entire cloud infrastructure. CLC provides an elastic cloud computing and simple storage service compliant web services interface to the client tools on one side and interacts with the rest of the components of the Eucalyptus infrastructure on the other side. Cloud Controller also provides a web interface to users for managing to certain aspects of the UEC infrastructure. What we are actually going to do means in this figure, Cloud Controller is the main component. All other components of the Eucalyptus are connected to this Cloud Controller. The user has the access of the instances only, while this admin can create and manage the users and instances. There can be one node controller or more than one. Cluster controller and deals with one node controller or number of node controller machine under another cluster. Before start the installation of front end and back end, I would like to tell you that we are going to install the front end and back end virtually on VMware. Components need to be installed on front end are cluster controller, Walrus storage controller, Cloud Controller, and component need to be installed on back end only one, that is node controller. As we have discussed the basic functionality of the Ubuntu Enterprise Cloud, like front end and back end, what are the basic components of front end and back end or node? Now in this section we are going to install the Ubuntu Enterprise Cloud front end machine and back end machine. So, we are going to create two virtual machines, one for front end and one for node, over which we will create a virtual machine. To install the virtual machine, I am using VMware Workstation. So after launching the VMware Workstation, go to Files, then click on New Virtual Machine, then go for Custom Setting, then Geo for hardware compatibility as Workstation 8 or 9, depend on the version of VMware Workstation you are using. Then click Next. Then select the last option, I will install the operating system later. Then select the OS type and version. Here we are using Linux Ubuntu 64-bit OS. Then click Next. Now select the location of your hard disk from where you want to install the Ubuntu Enterprise Cloud and give the name Ubuntu Front as a VM name for identification. Click Next. Then select the number of processor, I am giving it a default 1 processor. Then minimum 2 GB for RAM is required for front end. Use network adapter as net and click Next. Then in I/O controller types let it be default. Then select the HD type default SCSI type and then select the maximum hard disk size for front end is 30 GB. Then give name of the HD or let it be default. Then click next and then finish. Now go to Edit Virtual Machine Setting. Then first remove the floppy type and sound card since this is not required. Now the important section that is the CD/DVD, select Use ISO image file, and browse for the source image file. Here is the CD of Ubuntu Enterprise Cloud, is there in UKIT. Now we are done with basic setting. Note that, tell here the setting for the front end and back end is same. Means create the virtual machine named as back end, following the same procedure followed during the creation of the front end. And now power on the front end machine. Let's start the installation for front end. After BIOS of the VMware it shows the main installation steps for the Ubuntu Enterprise Cloud. Select the default language as English. Select the second option for automatic installation of Ubuntu Enterprise Cloud instead of normal Ubuntu server. Select the language you are comfortable with. I am choosing the English. Select your location. I am selecting a default US since we are not connected to internet and it is not necessary. Then on Configure the keyboard section, just enter. Select No and enter. Then on Configure the keyboard selection, select the default USA type, since we are actually using this. Press enter. And again enter. Now, it will check CD and then loading the additional component which is required for installation to start. Then this will detect the network configuration, and since we are providing the network as NAT, so it will automatically detect the DHCP configuration of NAT. Now it will ask for hostname and let it be default, Ubuntu. Note that this hostname is important here. Both front end and back end should have same hostname that is Ubuntu. Then in the cloud controller address leave it blank because this will take the IP address of the front address by default, and this is required when we are already having another cloud controller address. Select the first four options. These are cloud controller, walrus storage service, cluster controller and storage controller. In select time zone section, just enter it is not required since we are going to create a private cloud. In partition disks, use the second option, guided use entire disk and set up LVM. LVM is Logic Volume Manager. Press enter, then select yes. I personally wanted to write the changes to the disk and configure LVM. Then enter to continue. Write the changes to disk with answer yes. Now the installation starts, then installing the base system will take some time. During the installation, UEC asks some question in between the installation. Then it will ask for the username and password for the new user. I am entering the username as Ubuntu front and password as 123456. Click next and select yes, I want to use this weak password. In the automatic updates, press enter. Then it will ask for system mail name, let it be default name ubuntu.local domain. Then now from here this is important configuration. Now it will ask for the eucalyptus cluster name, then name should be cluster when you can change the name but it not require. Now understand this important section. In this section it is asking for the IP range which is used to give the virtual machine created on node. I am giving a range of 192.168.217.140 to 192.168.217.150 because I am using NAT here, with the DHCP enabled, and this NAT automatically give my front-end machine IP of 192.168.217.128 and node or back-end as 192.168.217.129. That's why I am giving the range from 192.168.217.140 for the virtual machine. Now the rest of the process will continue, like software stack installation and installing Grub bootloader. After installing the grub bootloader, at last, it will ask for reboot. Just reboot the machine. After reboot it will ask for username and password. Username is Ubuntu front and password is 123456. Then, you can check the basic configuration like IP address, etc. Now we are going to install the back end. The procedure to create a virtual machine is same as for front end. Just increase the number of logical processor or number of cores. Let's start the installation for back end. Just power on the virtual machine named as back end. One important thing I would like to mention here is that the procedure to install the back end is just similar. One more important thing is that, in the back end when it will ask for the domain name, just enter the same domain name that is Ubuntu, and then it will automatically details that is already one front end in the network. So now it will show only 3 components of UEC instead of 5. Now we are only going to install the node controller on this back end machine. Then the rest of the process is similar to install the back end as we had done for the front end. Okay, now here we have completed the installation of front end and back end. Now whatever we are going to do is on the front end only. Okay. And one more thing, we are not going to touch both the virtual machine, means we are not going to access this machine physically. Now onwards we are going to access remotely using port number 22, that is SSH.